Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of XM.com's Market Wrap. Here with Mr. Peter McGuire, the CEO of XM.com here in Australia. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, he's still catching up on the weekend, the week that was, the weekend that matters in the FT weekend. Now, Pete, walk me through the four headlines that caught your attention, and then we'll get stuck into the show.
Well, good morning, Will. I think first off, from my mind, moving on an analysis of last week, we saw that US dollar come under continued pressure as far as softness. So the taper talks, inflation. There's two subjects.
Taper talking and inflation.
Yep.
And we're not talking tapering fitness-wise. We're not talking taper for the Olympics. We're talking
No, we're not
tapering
talking
and inflation.
taper or a taper around your waist. We're talking taper cuts. The second part is, where did gold trade? Nearly, and we spoke about it last week, a chance to take 1900 out, hit 1893, not far off, $7 short. I think it's about 1888 at the moment. So I think that potential to take that 1900 is certainly on the radar. US dollar index under 90. We're now at about 89.98, I just had a look. And equities finished Saturday morning, pretty much a mixed bag. You had the Dow up, but the other two, S&P 500 was flat, NASDAQ off a little bit. I'm interested to see how Asia trades today. And currency-wise, possibly further uplift as far as yen and euro.
Yeah, there's some speculation we'll come to a little later in terms of where the euro goes from here. But coming back to this FT weekend, front page of the paper this morning, what have we got?
We're going on travel special. Travel special.
We're travelling around Australia here, Pete. I'm not sure we're travelling around the rest of the world just yet. What's the story?
What about your jet? Are you flying on that?
Well, the GC they haven't delivered. They can't deliver. They won't let it in the country.
Yeah, pretty hard to get those Gulfstreams in at the moment, I suppose, Will. Now, where we're sitting at the moment, I think that there's not a bad week leading up to the end of May. Fair bit of opportunity for traders, and crude has been an outstanding one. If you're looking at that chart,
we're getting ahead of ourselves yet. I want to ask you a couple of questions about what happened, and we spoke a bit about what we saw in the FT that hasn't really got out there. But if we look around this region, the opinion is that Chinese banks might be on the nose. There might be a bit of a blow up coming out of the pipe. We're talking a bit about commodity boom flashes in China again. Interesting headlining here over the weekend. Iron ore. Again, big challenges to Australian if people decide to go and dump that little commodity. A little further on, we've got futures, we've got crypto, we've got plenty of trades.
Oil's been a great one. We're having a look at down $3, $3.50 in the last couple of days. Great correction, beautiful trade. If you're looking at your charts, it's nearly a mirror image from about 8 or 10 days earlier. So when you're looking at opportunities, you're looking at the market, you're studying it, you look at your fundamentals and you look at the technicalities. Some of it just sets itself up, and if you're prepared to spend the time in front of a screen and trade, there's a lot of money to be made.
Take this chart, right? So we're talking about the Brent. It's the Brent. We're talking here at 66.70. Bloomberg has it. Bloomberg's talking it up this morning. Clearly, this is the 1 month chart that we're looking at. And we've seen to the point that Pete was making, it has pretty much auto-corrected. It's hit a low. It's running back up there. It looks like it's sort of sitting there at about 64. Target, it says 66 on the screen, but it's a bit hard to see if you're looking at the line items in which, of course, the markets are moving this morning. But where to from here? Does it run up to about that 69.70 high? Does it keep pushing out sideways? Iran's in the news again.
Yeah, that geopolitical seemed to take a little bit of heat out in the last few days, but possibly it could edge up closer to that 67.50s, maybe 60, maybe 68 in the short term. That could be a Wednesday or Thursday trade. So a little bit further upside. I want to see how New York trades tonight, but it seems to be on a little bit of an uplift, and that's where trades, and that's the opportunity that presents itself to anyone that's watching markets.
Pete, little look here at the US personal income and outlays. Outlays, we assume, is expenditure. You're talking about the retention and perhaps the ongoing volatility here.
Yeah, sure. And then that's a 3-year chart, so that demonstrates two things. And then you're looking at the bottom one, of course, off to the races. So we think that inflation is going to be a main concern to all central bankers leading into the second half of the year. Certainly by the start of the fourth quarter. So forecasts, what happens to bond yields, where does 22 play, stimulus, taper, and plenty of other things in between.
So what signals are we looking for today if we're looking at a trading week and we're sort of saying, hey, okay, we understand the inflation story, we're thinking gold, we're watching the oil. These signals are telling us something, Pete.
Well, gold and silver, I think that's where I want to be keeping an eye on, Will, in the short term. They've been a very, very strong move over the last, currency-wise, since the start of April. And gold really this month has been outstanding for it. Nothing short of breathtaking.
All right, so here we have euro versus yields. Eurozone bond yields are soaring. Is 123 the next high for the euro?
I wouldn't be surprised. We're sitting at that 121.5. There's every chance you take a 122 by the end of the month. So I think that upward lift, 123 could be a stretch, but it may happen over that European summer. I was talking to Italy last night. There seems to be game back on as far as tourism and as far as opening, cafes, bars, everything is more or less the start of June. They're quite excited about it. So
when they're talking tourism there, are they talking cross-border tourism? Are they talking within the border? I mean,
the guy I was talking to was principally just Europeans being able to
move around.
French going to Italy, Italy going to Greece, Greece going to wherever, and that's a pretty good sign.
Very good sign. So if you're talking here in Australia, you're perhaps thinking about tourism, would you continue marketing overseas? Would we be marketing the country as a destination just yet, or would we be just kind of looking to maintain?
Well, we're not accepting anyone in, are we?
We're not. But do we stay on the radar is the question, or do we disappear from the radar and then fire back up later?
Well, it depends on what the government's project is as far as vaccination rollouts, I should say. So, I don't know. Australia seems to be, running its own race.
An island unto itself. Right, a quick look at the silver chat. We touched on it earlier as a trade to watch, but against the gold, where would you play?
Well, I think there's possibly, from percentage terms, that gold-silver ratio is always one to keep an eye on, but at the moment I think silver's got a little bit more upside than possibly Big Brother. So that's certainly one to keep an eye on in the short term.
All right, Pete. Here we have the Great British Pound versus the Japanese yen. We talk a lot about Japan, but and Britain. We've talked a lot about Britain, the Brexit, what next, and they seem to be sort of charging forward. Nothing sort of business as usual in England.
Yeah, very much so. Vaccines, big numbers, and of course post-Brexit blues, and the economy seems to be doing reasonably well. So again, heading into that Northern Hemisphere summer, tourism probably domestically will increase. I'm not sure whether you're going to see cross-border in the sense of coming over from Europe over to England. And
Canada might be this story. I saw a little article on Canada or England over the weekend, and it looks like that's a trade corridor that looking like to open up.
Oh, that's good. That's very good. Canada's bouncing back, so anything for growth and anything for opening borders and getting people back moving again is very important, because I think we've all had it to the back teeth as far as COVID and what it's and how it's described and sold to the public.
Dentists have done well.
Yeah. I suppose I have. I'm not sure. My teeth are okay. New Zealand dollar, Will, there you are.
We could go into a supply chain story there, Pete. I mean, everyone's at home. They're a little bit worried about it. We're spending too much time on Zoom. I mean, teeth are important.
Yeah, they very much so. Make sure you smile and use McLeans. You've got that as far as US versus Kiwi. That's been a nice trade. Seems choppy at the moment, as demonstrated by that chart, but it's, I think, a little bit further opportunity to keep an eye on that one.
Tell me about the stochastic line here. We've got two lines running down the bottom of this chart with the RSI, which sort of, it seems
relative
to be rolling.
Strength Index. The other one is stochastics. You've got to look at those from a technical standpoint. You've got your moving averages. You've got your highs and lows of a trading session. It's a 4-hour chart. So traders set many different charts up for one particular market. So if you've got 6 screens at home, you might have an 8-hour chart, a 4-hour, 2-hour, you may have a 5-minute chart. You're looking at all of those charts to take I think, prepare yourself to enter or exit a position. And that's what many traders do. Not unusual to have a team of 3 or 4 people working together and identifying opportunities. So yeah, it's a 24-hour a day market, doesn't sleep. And the currency market for everyone out there, it's about $6 trillion a day. So there's no comparison. I mean, commodity markets, they're not even on the radar. Stock markets, not even on the radar. So the size of that FX market daily, it's a monster. Absolutely.
Tell me, so if you're interested in actually understanding a bit more about that comparison, whether it be the physical stock, the commodity versus the FX, I mean, clearly you can turn up at xm.com and dive into some of the education materials and resources there. But I mean, or you could actually, perhaps put a call into somebody and actually say, look, sit me down, give me the basics, and then actually help me chart a course to becoming a decent FX trader.
Yeah, and we run 28 hours a day of live TV, so it's a lot of TV. It's incredible. Multiple languages globally, because we've got a very large international footprint.
You said 28, right?
28 hours a day, yep. We've got 3 channels. One's 10, 2 at 9 hours a day. So you've got all your technicals, all your fundamentals. We've got access as far as research, analysis, just feeding in live. I run a breakfast show into Europe each day at 4 p.m. our time, 9 a.m. into Europe. And you might have 50, 60,000 people watching and just talking about the day's events, what's happening. It works out well for me and for our traders, because they get all of that info as far as Asia. It's 4 p.m. Sydney, and that's with daylight savings. So that's the earliest time. About a month a year it goes to 5 p.m. and then about 5 months of the year it goes to 6 p.m. because of daylight coming in and out, and they go in and out of daylight savings. So it's quite a fascinating time to look there and say, well, we're just waking up in Europe. Well, Asia's already over. You're going to get this uplift or downdraft, and many traders really, I think, appreciate that interpretation is, what the day's setting itself up for.
It seems to me there's a solid window there of opportunity if we look at the convergence and the timing and the scheduling around market open, market close, and an interpretation of the day's events and the translation of that into some signals that might make some buy or sell translation to buy or sell. So again, Pete, wrap that up for me, and let's roll out and get on with next week.
Well, Will, I think US dollar, keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on gold, as you mentioned, silver. Look at your currencies. I'm not getting a clear line where equities ended last week. I still think that possibly we're fully priced. Let's just see where, from an equity standpoint, what happens in June and July. And the inflation story is always, I think, an unknown, sitting on the right side of everyone, and they're going, okay, when does it really start to impact? And we've demonstrated that with higher commodity prices. So it's going to be a very interesting second half of the year to trade.
Pete, good chatting with you this morning. Let's
go. See you, Will. Take care.